Oh, hello, hello. Welcome to another Sunday Reads for July the 4th, which I think down below the border is something significant. Up here, it's a Sunday. So, yes. How's my week been? My week has been okay. Ooh, I can actually start off this week with my massive book haul, which means after dropping a loved one off at their appointment, went over and got to check out the bookstore and pick up a massive amount of books, which for me is just two books, which are fun for me. One is Octavia Butler, Lilith Brood, which is actually it's a series of Dawn, Adult Rights, and Imago. I read this before. Because I got into Octavia Butler just really shortly after she died and found the original pulp versions of these novels with terrible whitewashed covers in secondhand bookstores, and read them then, and really found them disturbing and odd and really intense. But I don't know if I was that careful of a reader then, and it's one of these books that I've always meant to kind of go back to. And unfortunately, I got rid of those incredibly cheesy book covers. Actually, I looked at them online. They are cheesy, but they're not maybe as gloriously cheesy as my memory put them up with. I don't actually particularly like photorealistic covers, but hey, at least they actually a little bit more accurately reflect the contents of the book. So there's that. So that's a series that I'll look forward to getting into, and I figured, okay, I'll just buy a good whack of the whole thing. The next thing I bought is actually something that was originally published fairly contemporaneous with Don Quixote in I think it's 1594 in the Western calendar. And this is an abridgment, translation and abridgment. Okay, I'm gonna sneeze now. Damn outside world. This is an abridgment and a translation, and it is Monkey King, Journey to the West. Now, the original translated title is Journey to the West by Wu Shen, though Wu Shen apparently is one of these. It's an author that it's popularly attributed to, and there seems to be some debate. It is a work that combines the historical travels of a monk in like the 1620s, going from China to all the way to the west to India and back, kind of looking for kind of Buddhist teachings and stuff like that. It's a combination of that and kind of the fantastical of sounds like Chinese folk tales and stuff like that. I've been meaning to get around to this. I think I was finally kind of pushed into it because in Our Times, the BBC series where they'll take subjects and they'll kind of they'll bring in experts of the field to discuss them in a very highly compressed 45 minutes to an hour long discussions on the BBC. Did Journey to the West, and I was like, oh, I think I would actually like to read that. And with my kind of experience just now with reading a Renaissance works, it's like, okay, I figured, hey, let's get the most up-to-date translation, and this one is about as up-to-date as you can get. I think this is it 1920, is it 2020 or is it 2021? This is 2021, so this is a hardcover, hot off the presses, translated by Julia Lovell, So I'm looking forward to reading that. It is. I already kind of dipped in and looked at the notes, and it's one of these things of it's 100 chapters. I think it's only kind of translating about 30 chapters. She's felt free to kind of cut out repetitions in the text, to cut out poetic works in the text, which I think another translator said, translating poetry is like 1,000 times harder than trying to translate text, and also just trying to, there's a lot of wordplay that happens in the original thing. So, it's all these caveats, but hopefully it'll be a good read, because that's basically when it comes down to it. For me as a reader, I'm not looking for a scholarly work. I'm looking for a good read. and hopefully I'll be getting that there. So yeah, that's my book haul. My book haul for this week, which is actually my book haul for the last year and such, because the last time I was actually in a bookstore is when I picked up The Mirror and the Light by Hilary Mantel, and then the next day all the bookstores were shut down. That was like not last March, but the March before that, a year and much ago. So what have I been doing? What have I been doing this week? This week I have been continuing. Well, actually, I have not really been continuing with A Constellation of Vital Phenomenon. It has been. It had been. It's not super mega hot here at the moment, as evidenced by the fact that there's not flame. I'm not bursting into flames, and my face isn't melting in that Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark kind of way. Yeah, it's not. It's actually damn cool at the moment, even though I've carefully positioned everything so I'm not getting sunstroke while I'm doing this video. But the thing with this book is my hard copy read for my dead tree read of for the moment is that I was reading this in the living room under a very bright light. And the one thing I have not been, couldn't even sit in that living room. I've been taking shelter in the bedroom, shut all the doors, and having the air conditioner going there, and that sustained me in a way that I could not, basically I haven't read this week is the short thing. I've read like 5 pages of this. I enjoyed those 5 pages, but it's very, very slow going. Hopefully that will pick up again this week coming up, because it's just been so too damn hot for me to even think at all. I have been continuing with on my ebook just North of Nowhere by Lawrence Santoro, which is very much a novel of kind of it's described as an accidental novel, where it's a bunch of short stories, but they're all very much set in this one place, this town of Bluffington, which people seem to accidentally find and then set up shop there, or have been there all their lives, as in the oldest man in the world, this old Ken, who as a young boy goes blind, and has lived on the kind of the charity of the town ever since. Charity, they take care of him, and he works his way around. It's funny because he's got a seat. He's got his own booth at the American Cuisine Eats cafe there, and it's like that's his booth, and nobody else sits there. If you sit there, he'll just sit on top of you, because that's how he works, how he goes around. There's another fellow in the town who he lives in the town, but he also lives under a bridge, literally under a bridge, and is he's the town troll who calls the tourists terrorists, and has a close encounter with a roving carnivorous house that suddenly takes root on the thing, and is very nearly eaten by it. So it's definitely got kind of strong fantastical things into it. Lawrence Santoro was a kind of a vocal performer, someone who is a great reader, and I can hear his voice in his writing as I'm reading the book on my ebook. I'm reading out loud to myself a story from F. Scott Fitzgerald's Flappers and Philosophers. It's a 1920 or 1921 collection of short stories. Just started off with the first one, which is The Offshore Pirate, which is about this very kind of rebel flapper girl who's rebelling against her aunt and uncle, rebelling in the most Fitzgerald-y kind of way of sunning herself on the uncle's yacht, which the uncle goes off to try and fetch her a respectable young man, and while he is gone, this Curtis Carlyle and his six musical buddies show up and take over the ship and abscond with it, and they have these giant big bags of what loot of some sort that Curtis claims, and it's very much you can see really kind of the roots of early Fitzgerald with kind of, Gatsby as a criminal, and this blonde Ardita who is kind of a bored rebel. Really, I mean, with the inclusion of these 6 or 7 black men that are with Curtis, you really do get the underlying kind of white, kind of like, oh, we get to lounge on the deck while the black men get to wait upon us, and this is just sort of the thing of things. And even the tale that Curtis spins, you get the sense of like, well, they're obviously the ones with the musical talent, even though that you say you're the one who carried them, and you're the leader of all these guys. But it turns out that the head black guy, Babe, is the one who's the sailor who actually sails the ship around, and you guys are just sort of freight. But all at the same time, they're talking about their fate, they're talking about their destiny, while kind of ignoring these black guys. And indeed, there's a thing at the end of the story where they're basically saying like, oh, these black men, they kind of just they're just sitting on the deck, and they're basically sedentary, they're passive. It's really, you get a sense of maybe what kind of Fitzgerald's views on these black men was, even while it completely undercuts all this kind of rebellious, kind of romantic stuff of Ardita and Curtis. And there's a twist at the very end, which is very much it's something that you think, oh, this is just completely a Hollywood ending, which I don't know how much Fitzgerald himself believed in it. There's a thing at the end of it saying she kissed him right in the illustration, and it's like, this is fake. This is just kind of nonsense. There is a thing here, a bit in the story here, early in the kind of a midpoint or mid latter point, where Fitzgerald, the narrator, pokes in and says, most of us are content to exist and breed and fight for the right to do both. And the dominant idea, the foredoomed attest to control one's destiny, is reserved for the fortunate or the unfortunate few. To me, the interesting thing about Ardita is the courage that will tarnish with her beauty and youth. Which is really much Fitzgerald kind of laying down, here's what I think about the story. I'm not interested in the romance. I'm interested in this idea of, a foredoomed attest to control one's destiny. These are really hapless, dumbass characters, and that I found I didn't really have that much sympathy for. And there's sort of a thing of here of like him, you can really get the sense of is Fitzgerald is the romantic of the thing of like, oh, the greatest stuff is youth and is beauty, but maybe there's another part of that makes Fitzgerald an interesting guy, that he's not just somebody who worships that he's like, well, he's very aware that this stuff is going to fade, this isn't real stuff, but he's a romantic because he doesn't seem to have like, well, what about age, what about experience is positive, what about that is enriching. So it's definitely a story that shows the racism of its own time, and it's definitely a story that kind of really pissed me off with the ending. It's funny, this did actually get turned into a silent movie, which apparently no longer exists, in 1921, like the next year. So it was definitely a hot thing, but it's like it has such that kind of Hollywood ending. Now there is an alternative ending which would have been even worse. That would have been even worse, would have been even more lame. So I have to give Fitzgerald credit for not going in the end, going with that ending. But yeah, so that was my little short story thing for this week. And because I finished the Murderbot Diaries, the Network Effect, which I really enjoyed, and actually I thought that I finished that this weekish, and that actually kind of stuck the landing. It was a more satisfying ending than a lot of the other entries in the Murderbot Diaries series. Yeah, it's like, it was like, oh, this felt like an ending, and it also pointed on to some more to interesting further adventures in the continuing story, this soap opera of the Murderbot. That I really enjoyed. But so I decided, okay, what's my next audiobook? And looking through the library thing, I found that Chuggy Bane's by Chuggy Bane by Douglas Stewart, 2020 novel that you might have heard of, considering it won the Booker Prize. Douglas Stewart is a Scottish American author, and it's funny in reading up about this book. It's like, oh, you read about his early life, and then you read the synopsis for Chuggy Bane, all about Chuggy and his alcoholic mother, and having to kind of live life after his alcoholic mother, and you go, oh wow, this really is autobiographical in a way that I could have stood to not hear about. But I do find that I think if a book can really pull that off, if it can take stuff from real life and mess with it in that way that says, like, yep, this is what actually happened to me, but I'm telling a story here, and I want to make something that's cohesive as a whole, not just oh look, this is my life, so isn't that impressive that I wrote it down kind of way, like this is actually a novel, can be interesting. So I'm just into the first 2 chapters of that, starting off with Chuggy in 1992 or something like that, where he is 15 and he's living all alone in a rooming house with a lot of older lonely men, one of whom Mr. Darling seems like probably a creep who's trying to kind of ply him with alcohol, and him kind of struggling with, like, what does he want, what can he do with his life, and also then flashing back into the 80s, where we have him as a child, him as an infant, I think, and his mother and her relationship with his father, Shug, a violent narcissist, and her addiction problems, even at that point in the life, and I guess how that is going to go along later for how that's going to affect Chuggy. So yeah, it's interesting to start off with. My father was A, alcoholic, and B, was from Glasgow, very much the different side of the tracks. My grandfather was an owner of a coal mine at some point in his life, and apparently got out before the going got bad, and was able to live quite comfortably for the rest of his life, and obviously raise his children in relative comfort. And now we're down to coal miner in Canada, not really coal miner in Canada, but to get too much into my own autobiography here, but yeah, so that's my reading week. That's what I'm reading. I've had news of the BookTube spin. I know just vaguely that Rick decided to do an early BookTube spin, basically because he got his timing right. I have not looked at the results yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this Constellation of Vital Phenomenon, which was my 2.5 pick when I was just doing a solo. I'll wait until I finish this, and then I will tune in to find out, and make my list of 20, and then I'll tune in to find out what number came up, even though that number has come up probably about a week ago now. I don't care. I'll just go back and find it. So no spoilers. Well, you can't spoil me, can you? Because I'm floating off in my own commentless universe. But yeah, that's what's happening to me this week. I've got a nice cool breeze coming. There's brother-in-law and our little niece is going to be coming to visit, which is going to be really nice. So going to enjoy that for the weekend and maybe get some reading done, hopefully, and then throughout the week. All right, more videos later.